What is up? What is up? What is up, ladies and gentlemen? And thank you for tuning back into You're the Vet. I am Robert Graves, the host, and I am bringing you this platform that is for you. It's for the transitioning service member. It's for the veterans that have been out and are finding themselves and looking for help and guidance and other stories that they can sympathize and empathize and relate to. And it's just a place for vets to come and share their story and their lessons learned from their transitions to give back, so the people listening, you, don't have to go through the same muddy waters and figure it out. Here are the answers to the questions that you didn't even know you had. You can hear it all right here at You're the Vet. That's why this is here. So, before we get into our next guest, I want to let you know that You're the Vet is on iTunes. It's on Spreaker, Spreaker. You're the Vet's on Instagram. It's on Twitter. It's on Facebook. And if you haven't checked over to the social media platforms and followed, liked, commented, engaged, then you're just missing out, because this is a community of like-minded individuals who are here to pull you forward, to make sure that you're successful without having to figure it all out by yourselves. And that's a blessing. So thank you for tuning into You're the Vet, and thank you for recommending You're the Vet, and thank you for sharing and just pushing the word that You're the Vet is here. I'm excited to bring you the next guest, because this next guest was around during my initial transition, like the very first days out of the Marine Corps. Justin Jones was the neighbor of my best friend whose couch I was sleeping on. And Justin is a chef, and not just a chef, but he's a chef with some pretty big and relevant credentials under his belt. Justin's paid his dues in places like small breakfast places, Asian fusion restaurants, a French cafe, catering companies. But most importantly, he's also worked at some high-end areas such as the Ritz-Carlton, SpaceX, and the Playboy Mansion. So Justin has made his rounds in the industry and has found himself able to get into a conversation with me in order to pass some of this knowledge on that's been accumulated over the last 20-ish years. So I'm really excited for you to hear Justin's conversation, because he comes into the conversation with a just pure, authentic love for his craft. And you can hear it in how he explains some of the processes that he goes through on a day-to-day basis. Lastly, Justin gives some extremely valuable advice for any of the transitioning service members or veterans already out there that are looking to get into the culinary business. And that is why Justin is the perfect person for this podcast. Perfect podcast person. The triple P threat. Anyway, let's move right into this conversation with Justin Jones. So, Justin Jones, thank you so much for being a part of You're the Vet. And I'm excited to have you on, because you were one of the first veterans that I knew on the outside of my circle of friends. And you were already in your transition. You were giving me pointers. So it's exciting to have you kind of full circle back onto my show to talk about transition.
Well, thank you for having me. It's, it's exciting. It's exciting to be a part of something that I had thought good about. I mean, it's dope that you're doing this for the young vets and those who are about to transition.
You sound excited.
Oh, come on. I don't sound too exciting on a general basis.
No.
It's just my delivery.
So, so you know about the format of the show, so let's just dive right into it. So, who was pre-Marine Corps Justin?
Pre-Marine Corps Justin was a high school kid who took the ASVAB just to get out of class. And that's the truth. The recruiter called me and he said, "Hey, you've got scores in order that are good enough to fly planes. And my father being a private pilot, I thought that it would be really cool to fly a jet. And I was just a teenager trying to figure it out. And I thought, hey, the Marines have a cool uniform, and I can probably goof off through high school and then just join the Marine Corps. So that's what I did.
Did you have friends who had joined before you, or because I didn't know about the Marine Corps until really Chris, my buddy, had enlisted. Mm-hmm. So like it was never a thing. The military was never a thing to me. Was it a thing in your life?
No, not beyond G.I. Joe. I mean, that's the truth too. It wasn't really part of my set of goals as I was growing until I realized that this was the way I could get out of my parents' house and be my own man and all that stuff that testosterone makes you think.
So when did you leave to boot camp?
Right after my senior year of high school. I signed up in February, graduated, spent the summer with my friends, and in September they all went to college and I went to boot camp.
What year was that?
1994.
Hey.
Yeah. Class of 94 represent.
You look good for your age.
Well, thank you.
I guess that whole black don't crack is actually a thing, huh?
Well, that and the Filipino that's in my body also keeps the skin nice. So it works out really well.
That's sounds like some Buffalo Bill stuff.
Possibly.
Get that little Filipino out of there. So you went in 94. You went in.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So you went in 94. Did you fly planes?
No. I've got partial colorblind thing happening, so I've got great vision, but I can't tell what colors match. So I talked to the recruiter, and he told me, hey, we've got this great program where you can go to Johnson & Wales, so on and so forth. So I said, well, hey, I like to cook. I've got chefs in my family. I'm not afraid of a fire or working around the stove. And so I went in guaranteed cook and guaranteed West Coast duty station. And I didn't go to Johnson & Wales though.
So what is Johnson & Wales?
Johnson & Wales is a culinary school on the East Coast. I think it's either like Rhode Island or one of those places like that. And they teach like hospitality management, culinary arts, and they have an equestrian program.
Of course they do.
Yes, of course.
Because why not? Right?
And why not? I mean, I guess it's all about the finer things at that school.
So the recruiter is like, hey, we're going to send you to Johnson & Wales. And you're like, good to go.
Exactly.
So
where do I sign?
So your whole time in that whole, that MOS, the whole, what'd you do, 4 years in?
4 and some change. Okay. I extended to see if they would give me a good deal.
Did you meet anybody in that 4 and some change that actually went to Johnson & Wales?
Yes.
Oh, you got...
Yes, I did.
You got the shit in the stick then.
Well, the deal was you got to be a staff NCO in order to qualify for that program. So my last year, shortly after I picked up E5, we had a staff sergeant that was picking up gunny come to our base, being stationed there, and he went because he was a general's cook.
Yeah.
So he got to get his little crew chief time. He got to go to Johnson and Wales, and he did all this fun stuff. And I said, hey, I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I figured I would go to sergeant's course, maybe do my B billet as a GI or something like that, because I still love drill to this day. Don't ask me why, I don't know.
It's because you're a Marine, that's why.
It's fucking motivating, dude.
Drill gets you rock hard, that's why.
It does, man. It really does. And yeah, so I figured, hey, I'll do it. I'll extend. I'll talk to the monitor, tell him what my plan is, and it did not jive with his plan. Yeah. So, coming up on my EAS date, I think maybe a month out, I had no idea what I was going to do. No clue. A lot of the military cooks were getting out and going to work at the prison as a cook there, because the style of food is institutional. You know, it's just like working in the chow hall. Mm-hmm. You know, big kettles, large batches of food, mm-hmm. Steam table service line. And it didn't speak to me. I didn't want to do that. So, coming up closer, one of the other cooks was telling me, hey, I'm going to move to San Francisco and go to this culinary school that's up there. That was mostly because he had met some girl on the computer and wanted to go up there and be with her. But I got the information for the school from him. I called him up, talked to him on the phone, and was literally accepted and on my way a month later. And
so as you school, just got out?
Right as I got out, I drove home, you know, put as much stuff in a trailer as I could to get my weight up, to get as much money as I could, and drove up to the Bay Area. I have some family up there that let me crash until I got my stuff together. And I was going to school literally 3 weeks after I had left Yuma.
Did the VA pay for that?
The VA loan, or the VA program, the GI Bill program, at that time was not what it is today. Mm-hmm. It was, for a full class load, it was $600 a month. Mm-hmm. And they send you a hard check in the mail, and that's how it went. So I had to get loans, the Sally Mae and all that other stuff that they get you, in order to cover the school. And then the $600 that they sent me covered my car payment and my insurance. And then I got a job to cover food and rent. Mm-hmm. So that's the new GI Bill that they put in, you know, at the second time around for Iraq was, and still is, the best deal in town. And I actually considered going back in so that I could get that GI Bill. Mm-hmm. Because honestly, it's a godsend, dude. You can go to school and figure it out along the way and not have to, you know, struggle and work and go to school at the same time and have no time to be a regular 20-something. Yeah. You know?
So you're about 24 when you got out, right? 25-ish.
22.
20. Okay.
I joined, I was 17. I turned 18 in boot camp.
So as a 22-year-old getting out, and you're like, okay, this is a restart. You're mature enough to make the decision that you didn't want to work in the jailhouse or the prison system and that you wanted to be more prestige, right?
Mm-hmm.
For a better term. Now, when you got into this whole new life of having to worry about finances and where your next, meal's coming from, and going to school and studying at the same time, at that point, as a 22-year-old, and you're saying you're not able to live that 22-year-old life, what's going on in your life at that time?
Well, what was going on was all I was really focused on was trying to learn more about the food business and all of that. I didn't have a wife and child. I did have a girlfriend who I lived with, and we had been together through the Corps and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Who's now my wife. And I can't. Yeah, all I was trying to do was learn, and so it. But also the need to make money affected the opportunities, because in the food business, starting out, even if you were a cook in the military, they don't look at that as restaurant experience.
Okay.
So a lot of times they want you to do an internship that is unpaid. And the reality is, if you got to get paid, you got to work some jobs that are not ideal. So
what's one job that was not ideal that stands out to you the most?
I think, I took a job in a restaurant working as a breakfast cook.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a crew of people that didn't expect me to be able to pull my own weight.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really know much about me, and the camaraderie was between them, keeping me on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
So I left that job a couple months after, and after working there, I found another job that was a lot better, and it was a new restaurant. And the thing about the culinary business or the restaurant business is that inside of the kitchen, in the back of the house, you can find that esprit de corps, because they're all standing right next to you, including the chef, sweating and pushing out dinners for people that are there to have a good time and enjoy your food.
Mm-hmm.
And the pressure of a dining room full of people wanting their food, and you've got and 10 or 20 of them are coming off of your station at the same time, is exhilarating and gratifying, being able to handle it. And then that team coming together to put out, 5 different plates for a table. It makes it seem like you're back in the Corps again. Mm-hmm. Only it's regular civilians.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Where did you go to school? What was the school you went to?
I went to the California Culinary Academy on Polk Street. It was bought by Le Cordon Bleu right before I left. That Cordon Bleu bought schools all over the country, and then they decided to go out of business. That's not
if we can't be on top, nobody can be on top.
Yeah, but when I went to school there, the program was different. I got to do a lot of butchery. The butchery was done by the butchery class, and then it was either served to the students, or they had a working restaurant that the seniors in that school would do the service and the cooking for a profit.
Mm-hmm.
So the school was pretty comprehensive, all encompassing, however you say it, but it was something that you got to see all aspects in it through the classes and the way that the school operated. When Cordon Bleu bought it, it just became gouging the students, and I think they doubled the tuition. Things like that. It was just not good.
So for somebody like me, right, who, and it's funny because I was just talking to Arlene a day or two ago, and I said, the pinnacle of my success, like the moment I know that I've made it and done everything that I wanted to in life, would be the day that I can host a dinner and cook it myself, and like a nice 5-star kind of deal, right? By putting myself through culinary school and learning, all there is that I can sit there and soak up, and then like utilizing it in my own kitchen, because I could never be anybody else's chef, because I think that would take the fun away from me. But when people talk about becoming a chef, right, is there a mirage image? Like, do you see a lot of people come into the field and they're like, fuck this, like, this is way too much than I expected? Or is there an actual magic to food and preparing food and plating that just entrances you and keeps you in the field? Do you get what I'm saying? Like everybody
exactly
wants to be a real estate agent because it makes money, but they don't realize how much work actually goes into it, So what about the same with the culinary world?
Well, just starting off with your example of a real estate agent, maybe 10 years back, I was working at the Ritz-Carlton, getting my fine dining experience, and I'll come back around. But there was a cook there who was just starting out. He hadn't gone to culinary school, but he was probably 5 years my senior. He was a lawyer and didn't like it, wanted all those hopes and dreams to come true about cooking, and realized what a grind it was. And eventually he gave up and got his real estate license. and I just spoke to him a little while ago, and he's trying to sell me a house in Long Beach. So I found that really amusing. But speaking about the energy, the in the restaurant, there's a certain kind of feeling and gratification you get when you are in there and the chef is yelling, fire 2 venison and 5 steaks and this and that and the other, and being able to get all of that stuff cooking, turn around, do the chopping that you need to do a la minute to get the rest of the plate together, and the scent of the butter right when it gets to that certain point of brown but not burnt. It's called burn noisette. And you can smell that behind your back, and you spin around and you drop the fish in, you drop the salt, and push that to the back, move on to the next thing, and everything is falling into place. And you can't get that high in any other job that I've ever had. Yeah. There's something special to being so locked on and so focused. And it was a natural progression from the military to the kitchen, because the chef is yelling at you. Other people are yelling, and there's fire, and people are getting burned and cut, and everything is working perfectly for you in lockstep. And the yelling isn't an issue.
Yeah.
And, the cussing and spitting is just like you're, running the O course with your buddies. Mm-hmm. And that's really something that never leaves your blood.
Yeah. Yeah. You know how certain genres of activity have a movie, right? Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
fighter pilots have Top Gun, and I don't know, Marines have Full Metal Jacket, but like, there's so many, but so few at the same time, culinary movies. Do you get off on those? Like Julia versus Julia, or like Chef, or what was it, like Chocolat?
I used to Chocolat. Yeah, that was a good movie. Chef was a good movie. I used to watch Iron Chef back when it was a Japanese show,
yeah,
and it was on like PBS, and one of my chefs was actually on it. But there's not a whole lot that doesn't glorify or glamorize being a chef.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of young guys and girls come into the business thinking that when I graduate school, I'm going to be a chef. And it doesn't show the 15, 20 years behind the stove,
mm-hmm.
and the crappy chefs you work for and the good ones you work for. It doesn't show any of that. It shows that instant rise to being a magical chef, creating experiences for everyone, and that is just fake.
Yeah.
So
gotcha.
In that portion of it, it's kind of like, it's not glamorous. The real job is definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
But some of my contemporaries have been on Top Chef and made all their hopes and dreams come true.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's great, but I've always just cooked, and I wanted to just cook and focus on my family and have a nice balance.
So speaking of hopes and dreams coming true, right? Let's actually talk about
mm-hmm.
what a little of your culinary resume looks like.
Okay. Well, after the Marine Corps, when I moved up to San Francisco, I worked at a small breakfast place. It was good food, solid following. I wasn't in the clique. I worked at a Asian fusion place after that, where I realized that I had a lot to learn. One of the ladies who worked in the pastry department hooked me up with her boyfriend, who was a waiter at one of these little French cafes in San Francisco, where I feel like I learned the most. It was the 3-man kitchen. It was myself, the chef, and the sous chef, and the dishwasher. And we had about 40 tables, and we stood there side by side, and at the end of the night, the chef would scrub the kitchen. So that was a really great experience. But I needed fine dining. So we moved down, my girlfriend and I moved down to Los Angeles. I worked at a catering company, which I absolutely hated, but the money was good. I hated it. Oh, God. LA people will blow smoke up your keister and tell you it's the best thing, and you know they're just lying.
I said, get out of here. In LA?
Yeah. Who would believe it, right?
Unheard of.
But, so then I went to the Ritz-Carlton. I worked for a chef named Troy Thompson, and his chef de cuisine was Jojo Vasquez. That 3-year experience taught me more of the finer things than I think I would have ever gotten. And then from there, everybody always asked me, why'd you leave? That place being the Playboy Mansion. And there I was, I rose to the chef de cuisine. I got to do all the fancy fine dining things. I got to cook my own food as opposed to reconstructing somebody else's vision.
Mm-hmm.
And that was exhilarating. And, you know, not to mention flora and the fauna of the property.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely an interesting time. But my son came along, and I knew that I needed something with more upward mobility. So I found one of the guys that I trained at Playboy had gotten a job working at SpaceX. They had just opened a kitchen there. So I went in there. I met the chef, Ted Sisma. He's out of Chicago and a big deal in the Chicago fine dining scene. And he was actually a Marine. So nice. when I sat down to talk to him, it was like, oh, you're a Marine too. Excellent. Where were you stationed? What did you do? Oh, well, I did this, that, and the other. Okay. Well, I'll see you on Monday. And I said, well, chef, I can't start just yet. I've got a party I have to see through at the mansion, but I'll start the week following. And yeah, so that's how I ended up at SpaceX.
Is it more of a line type dining at SpaceX, or is it, made to order?
Well, you've been to Oki, so you know what the chow hall is like for 5,000 or 10,000 military personnel. So we've got we're feeding around 5,000 people. So we do have a line in the main kitchen. We also have a made to order restaurant style kitchen, and we have various satellite outlets, where you can go out and get, they all offer something different. One is a food truck that we create the menu for, put everything together, and they serve 2 plates. You get one choice of each, and the rest of the meal.
Gotcha.
Be it, stuff, fruit, chips, ice cream, whatever it is. And then the other one will have salads and wraps, and all based off of a sandwich. And some will serve like one item, there's a hot dog cart. There's all
Gotcha.
sorts of different ways to feed these people. I'm running the prep kitchen. So we do all the vegetable and meat prep for the main kitchen, the restaurant kitchen, and the grab and go program, which is sandwiches or little heat and eat meals and things like that. Made different menus every week, and it'll a 5-item menu that you can just pull out of the fridge and microwave or
Gotcha.
eat cold, however. So a lot of my experience throughout the years have come into play in any area that I've worked at SpaceX.
Gotcha. So I want to go back to the environment of the kitchen, right? So you've kind of given a nice picture of how you need to be a team, right? As a head chef or the lead chef or whoever's managing the kitchen, throughout your time in, you'll get individuals who just can't cut it. So compared to the Marine Corps, how do you maintain discipline in the kitchen?
By leading by example.
Okay.
Period. It's some chefs are a little loose in the kitchen, and that's fine. That's just their style. That's some play music, Others like it completely silent. No talking, no joking, no nonsense. It's about the food.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that sort of thing where it's nobody's goofing off. We're all just pushing it out and getting ready for service.
Mm-hmm.
Maintaining discipline is pretty simple once you have it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and you get that. I mean, some chefs will go off and drink with the crew and things like that, and I've never been into that. And I've never been one to go out drinking with the staff after work or any of that.
Mm-hmm.
One, because I had a lady at home waiting on me, and two, when you're in charge of the people, you don't fraternize.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't. It's a recipe for disaster. You know, you go out drinking, you make bad decisions.
Yeah.
So with that said, there were no tears shed when I left the Marine Corps by the guys under me, and there are very few tears shed when they say, "Hey, Justin, you want to go out and have some drinks after work? We're about to be on vacation." It's all good, guys. You guys stay out of trouble, have a good time. And that's just the way it is, right?
Cold-blooded. No, it's
to be cold-blooded.
It's all good.
Yeah, you just got to keep it separate, man.
No, I completely understand.
Keep work and play separate.
Yeah, completely understand. So you've got a nice little resume, right? How do you become successful in a seemingly oversaturated field?
Well, that's a good question. You build relationships with the guys that you work side by side with, and you make a plan and you go for it. I never wanted to own a restaurant. I still don't want to own a restaurant, but that's the dream of a lot of people. One of the guys I was in school with, he always wanted a restaurant. And I found myself down in Los Angeles around the same time that he made his way in here. And he and his now wife, TV personality, chef to the stars type lady, they wanted a restaurant, and they went and opened one, and it was not as successful in that location, serving what they were serving at the time. It just wasn't right. So they got another partner, they opened in a different place, then they built the following, and you got to pay for the advertising in the business. You got to pay a company to put your stuff on social media to keep your name in people's minds, so that I did have a good meal at Zach's that one time, and I know that chef, so I'll go try it. Oh, that meal was great. I took my mom there. Let's go back to this and such place. And then that's really it. Once you open one place, you open the next and the next. And once you have about 3 restaurants going, you found that you're quote unquote successful, but you're not just cooking the thing that you originally loved, that you originally got into the business for. So it takes you to a place where you, like for me, looking around at my contemporaries, wondering, am I successful or am I successful? You start comparing yourself, of course. Yeah. And, but at the same time, I'm not the chef on TV. I'm not the guy who owns the restaurant that you love to take your mom to. I'm I'm just a guy who's been cooking all this time.
It's kind of like music, right? Like some people are into the most modern, the most poppy, the most like now music. However, there's some individuals who prefer to play blues and jazz, the stuff that nobody really listens to on mainstream, but when they listen to, they still highly enjoy, right? Like, it sounds like you're in that realm of chef artistry where it's like, I'm here to make this food taste exquisite, and that is all I'm here for.
That and to pass down the knowledge.
Yeah,
because the beauty of the food business is the knowledge that you gain from the people that you work with.
Yeah.
And you can learn from anybody, from the dishwasher to the executive chef.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just it. And it's not something that you can learn in school. The technique to fix your mistakes or how to bring out flavors in vegetarian food, or any of that, or to make your own spices to build a curry that, you would have to go to an Indian place to eat the authentic quote unquote curries. But I can make that shit from scratch, from the basic spices, man.
Yeah.
So, because I was taught.
Yeah. By
someone who I worked with.
What's your favorite ethnic food or cultural?
Mexican.
Yeah. Is that
Mexican?
Is that because we're here in LA or like?
Well, it's my favorite thing to eat when I was a kid was burritos. I loved it. I love them still to this day. I love a burrito. I could eat Mexican 4 days a week. The other is Japanese. But yeah, I mean, that's just why. And being here in LA, it's crazy because we have so many Latinos and there's so many facets to Latin cuisine that it could take a lifetime if you wanted to. But at the same time, there's something to be said for, the taco truck or the little, I don't know if you ever went to La Playita, the little taco stand down on Lincoln, but, shrimp tacos and ceviche and stuff. Yeah. It's all, I love it.
Have you had, do you have a non-favorite? This is all small talk.
Whoa. Woo. Too much rosemary.
Too much just rosemary. Anywhere. It's like
pretty much
English food.
No, English food.
Way too much rosemary.
Well, English food isn't bad. It's got a bad rap, but I spent a lot of time in the French place, so I ate the whole range of animals.
Yeah.
The English will eat anything also. The interesting thing about food and where it comes from, it tells you the climate, the type of people that live there, and, what they had to do to survive.
It's funny you're saying that right now because just last night I was having the conversation. I go, we're not poor anymore. We don't have to eat chitlins. Like, what are we doing?
Correct.
What are we doing still doing that? Because Arlene doesn't think that there's a food I wouldn't eat. And I'm like, no, there's like two. And chitlins is one of them. I don't have to do that anymore.
Those things you got. I'm going to confess something right now.
Don't you dare.
Right now.
Don't.
I've never eaten a chitlin.
Oh, well, you're not.
I will, but I need to see you scrub it.
That's me clapping for you right now.
You turn it inside out and soak that thing and scrub it because you're eating the poo trash. You're eating the pig poo.
There's no reason to do that. There's no reason.
Not anymore. anymore.
No,
not anymore.
We don't. And that's, another thing that I can't stand is tripe. And, but it's around, it's the same kind of concept. You're eating like the sections of stomach that filter stuff. Like, there's no reason to do that anymore. And she goes, well,
not anymore.
What about gizzards? I was like, cause I like chicken gizzards. I'm from the South, right? So I'm like, gizzards, I mean, you go take a chicken and you cut up a chicken. You're not eating like the butt lining, but you can eat the gizzards.
Yeah. You can.
There's no reason to eat chitlins. Especially if you've ever smelled them.
I prefer the heart.
Chicken heart?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Those things are so good.
Oh, yeah. I can't get Arlene to eat it, but, oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I got my wife eating all sorts of things that she wouldn't try. Foie gras being one of them. And she tried it a few times and doesn't like it. And I get it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So
you can trick her into eating the heart.
Well, you just cook it, right? Or like cut it up and put it into some dirty rice.
Bread it and fry it.
So do you have any big dreams pulling you somewhere, or are you kind of content with where you're at? What's the dream?
The dream is to raise my child into a guy that is not my mirror image. I just want to be, at this point, I would love to be able to buy a house somewhere near where I'm at and have my kid be a happy guy. Because the way that I was brought up and the places that I was growing up made me into who I am. And sometimes I have to be told by my wife, hey, you sound like an asshole. And at this point, the dream is just to keep food on the table, spend time with my son, the bit of time that I get, and one day I'll be able to surf and do the things that I like to do, and hopefully do it with my son.
So with that being said, right, being a family man, and chasing, you're not really chasing that dream, but you're on path, right? But when you are a father, because I'm experiencing this now, when you're a father, or I know you didn't transition with the family, but being in a lifestyle where you're constantly on, and you're constantly trying to keep things fresh, and you're constantly trying to keep your skills in line with where your thoughts are. Can you talk about the sacrifice of vocational aspirations and the sacrifice of being a father and a husband?
Well, I said earlier about finding a balance, and that's the thing, because in the food business, a lot of chefs owning restaurants spend all their time at the restaurant. If that's what puts food on the table, you need to make sure it is always on and the food is always right. So you end up sacrificing family dinner every night at home in order to keep the food on the table. That puts strains on a marriage. If she's at home with the kid and you're away at work every night, it's stressful. And then, and even if you're not doing that and you're just cooking, as a line cook, they're asking you to put in 10 hours every day on the line. And if you progress to a sous chef, you're working 12 hours minimum, 6 days a week. And if you don't have your goals in mind, it becomes easy to lose sight of them. And with that said, you don't get to spend time with your kids. You and your wife fight, and then it becomes divorce. It's like, I don't know.
No, I get it.
There's a lot of, it's like you have to make your choices. You have to set your goals and go for them.
Mm-hmm.
I've always ridden my career out like a wave, and you drop into it and you keep it moving. You try and keep forward momentum, and without that, you kind of stagnate, and it can. I mean, I've been at points where I've been angry for no idea why, and then I've moved on from that job to a next and realized that I was stagnating in that particular job.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to, if you find something that treats you right, fulfills you in some way, not overfull, but just right, and you can spend time with your family in this business, you've found a gold mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I work a lot of hours at SpaceX, but the upside is that I'm home on the weekends. I'm home for holidays. I get 3 weeks of vacation during the year.
Mm-hmm.
They treat me right. They pay me well. I really can't ask for much more in this business.
Yeah. So you found your niche, and being a Marine Corps veteran, understanding the whole process of getting out and trying to find your area, find your footing, right? Find your footing.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell the vets that are struggling to find themselves today?
Well, the first thing I would say is, did you use your GI Bill?
Mm-hmm.
Have you gone to school? Because you can't do anything without going to college these days. I would also say, find an outlet for that excess energy that you have, so you can sit back and focus. Don't drink it all away. Don't smoke it all away. Just, do something physical. So that, well, for me, I had to be really active in order to think straight. And if you don't, I don't know, think about the things that you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
If you enjoy math, then go to school and be a mathematician. If you miss being that guy who's leading the platoon down the street singing songs, that's training. Go work out and become a trainer. That's a simple, quick thing, but there's other facets to that business. And you can study nutrition. You can become a nutritionist and a trainer and a coach and all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
What made you want to be a life coach? What made you want to start this You're the Vet thing that you're doing? That is, you wanted to help people.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Yeah.
So you reach out for it and you go for it.
Yeah.
But if you're struggling to figure out what it is, go to school. Take random classes that you might be interested in. Maybe there's an artist inside of you that is struggling to get out and you just don't know how to express it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's what I would say.
Yeah. So if you could tell Recruit Jones one thing to prep him for today, what would that be?
Shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Shut up and listen.
You don't need to say anything more. So we've gone over a lot in this little bit of time. And do you think you have any other bullet points you want to mention or anything you want to talk about that we haven't brought up?
Well, to anybody that's thinking about going into the food business, you don't have to go to the fancy school. A lot of community colleges have great programs that will get you an associate's degree and get your foot in the door pretty much anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get out of school without having a huge loan over your head. Another thing is you're not going to make enough money to survive. Don't think that you're going to be a chef right out of school.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be struggling for years.
Mm.
To the guys that are getting out and not really sure what they're going to do, go to school. The GI Bill is so amazing this time around. I mean, they got it right. And back, I think the original GI Bill was put in with the New Deal. And it afforded service members to go to college and do all of that stuff then, but it didn't keep up with the times. So now that they've gotten it right again, use it.
Yeah. And what advice would you have for a brand new chef in the kitchen?
Shut up and listen.
Shut up and listen.
I'm not kidding, man. A lot of young guys feel like they're owed something.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of young guys feel like they know everything. And I get it. But until you stop and watch what people are doing and ask questions, but don't approach it like you already know the answer,
mm-hmm.
then you'll be successful. And if your dream is to dance ballet or own a restaurant, just go for it, man. You only have one life.
That's right. Well, Justin, it has been, you're a friend and I look up to you because, I know what it's like to be in the kitchen. Randomly, I know. It's weird that I know, but I know what it's like to be in the kitchen. So,
were you a busboy or something?
So my dad's friends owned a barbecue joint when I was a kid. So I would be in the kitchen often there. And then my dad thought he was going to be a chef for a while, and so I was in the back of the restaurant there. And then my mom dated a chef where I was bussing randomly, but mm-hmm. I have a taste of what it's like, and it really is something else, man. It's like watching a machine move. It's like watching a clock work from the inside. Yeah, like if you were to stand inside of a clock. So there's a lot of respect for your craft and your trade, and the fact that you went in as a 17-year-old kid and then just ran with it and found your love. So thank you for taking the time from the family, because I know how important family time is to have this conversation with me. So,
well, thank you for having me. I really didn't know that I would, or didn't feel like I had a whole lot to share that would be helpful, and I hope I hope I can be of help to somebody out there listening.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody would absolutely. I enjoy and can pull from something, even if it's just me, I got it. So
right on.
I'm the most. I think I'm just doing these for me. This is all selfish conversation. Nobody else really needs to listen.
I'm sure there's people out there listening, and
who are you?
Now,
show your face.
Yeah, who are you? Front and center.
Can you email me and let me know you're listening? But yeah, thanks again, man. Thanks so much for being on, and for for those of you that stuck around and listened to Justin's whole story, we both thank you from the bottom of our heart. Please pass on the word that You're the Vet is a platform for those individuals getting out of the service and transitioning, and those that have already transitioned and are looking for a little guidance on their paths to finding, where they're supposed to be at in life. So with that being said, have a wonderful week, and we'll check back in with you next week.